Oh, right, yeah. Last part of the Ike interview. We have to do more Ike as well. But yeah, let's go.
And was already set to go off when when he saw the trigger.
What form could this trigger have taken?
It could have been a hand signal. It could have been a certain type of handshake. It could have been a color that he saw that was flashed in front of his face. It could have been a certain person doing a hand signal. It's most likely that there was a person present that he was to react to when this person said something or signaled him in some way.
Given the extent of your programming from birth, how was it possible for you to break out of it, as you appear to have done now?
One thing that happened is that in 1989, my programmer handler died, who was Mengele. And he was in this country so much, and I was around him so much, and he had a lot of control over me. And what happens when a programmer handler dies, they usually have taught the person that they've been working with, to be very, very loyal unto death to them, and that's something that they, in the end, it works against everything, because when they die, even someone else coming in and trying to take over, a lot of these altars are not open to that and are loyal to that one person. And in my case, Baron Guy de Rothschild is the one that tried to take over. And for some number of years, there was a lot of the time, half the time they got their way, and half the time they didn't. And in major things, they didn't. They did not get their way. One of the things that I went out and did in 1993 was I cut my hair off, and because I was publicly seen and known to have very, very long hair, I could no longer be seen. I could not be seen with my hair cut off short. This would have caused a lot of questions with other people that had been programmed. And they still tried to carry on with other parts where I wouldn't have to be publicly seen, because they still consider me to hold this status, and they still consider me their property. I was always told I was their property.
One question that people would ask is, given all that you know, why don't they just take you out?
They still have plans for me, and this was told to me just a few days ago by someone else who has spoken with Baron Guy de Rothschild, that they have plans for me, and they plan to try to have me back because of the psychic abilities, and that is not going to happen.
In the little bit of tape we've got left, could we just turn the subject to the jewelry you've got to your left there? What is that? Was that part of the rituals that you were involved in?
The first one, this is a child's ring. It is a 14-karat gold white, or 14-karat white gold ring with a diamond in the middle of a hexagram, or a hexagonal shape, and it looks like a hexagon if you were able to look closely at the diamond. This was returned to me by my ex-husband, who told me, well, this was in your daughter's clothes. And this was a message to me, and it was a trigger to me for him to do this. Very Well, any high-ranking survivors that I have talked to that know of this ring know that it's from Mothers of Darkness, and this it would be very unusual. I mean, I don't know of anyone else that has a ring like this in their possession at this point in time.
And what's the necklace?
The necklace here is made out of copper, and it's
Hey, looks
very
Egyptian.
Egyptian,
Yeah.
and it was given to me when I turned 19, and that's an important age because you really start at the position I was at, having these psychic powers in full effect and being allowed to do this in full effect during rituals, and this was worn during certain rituals.
Why copper, and why have it at all?
Copper is a transmitter. Copper has always been used in the occult. It has a specific meaning. The meaning it has is because I had a triad of altars that were very active in a lot of rituals, and the triad was Isis, Osiris, and Horus. And Isis was the part that drew down the moon, and Osiris performed the rituals, and Horus was what was born of performing those rituals.
Just in the literally 3 minutes we got left, or 3 or 4 minutes, I know it's difficult, but I want people to understand the nature of what's going on to so many people today. What sort of things were done to you as part of your traumatization as a child and later?
I was electroshocked to the extent that, my parents were told when I was in first grade that my IQ was 70 and that I was retarded, and they said I would be retarded. I always had trouble in school when I was in school because I missed so much school. My school records are missing. They've just disappeared. I have medical records that are missing. My birth certificate appears to have been tampered with. I have had my eyelids taped open, and so I couldn't shut my eyes. I have been electroshocked. I've been put into a narcoleptic sleep and had earphones placed over my ears and had messages repeated and repeated for days. I've had drugs injected into my body so that my nerves were just like on fire, and then they would just touch me. Since I wasn't allowed to have marks on my body, they couldn't use a cattle prod on me, but they do use cattle prods on people in torturing them, and they do use electrical stimulation to the genitals and also on the teeth. And they like to inject between the toes.
This is the thing with this. Whether you believe in I know that believing in the lizard side of things is too far-fetched for people, but we do know they did this sort of thing. Not just the kids. We do know they experimented, and if you think about it, it kind of does make sense to torture someone because, I mean, as sick as it is, you then know at what point people will talk, what point people will um, do what you say, and yeah, we know they did this sort of thing. We know they have done like these weird experiments on people forever. You think of, well, it's like it's not a conspiracy anymore. America took Nazi scientists. Most of them Nazi scientists was doing this sort of thing, experimenting and seeing how far you can push the. Like I say, one of them I've heard is a guy who he was an expert in hurting children so that it never left a mark, like injecting chili sauce into their privates and things like that, like just that will cause the most pain and leave no evidence, basically. And you're like, sick.
and under the fingernails and up in the gums. I've also had some kind of scarring.
And the electroshock treatment. We know they've done things like that, lobotomies, and they used to electroshock gay people, didn't they? Because they thought it could stop you being gay. So I don't know how supposedly smart people think that would work.
Done up through the roof of my mouth all the way up to the brain stem back here that gives me a photographic memory. And I have calcium blocks around the pineal gland that seem to be perfectly spaced and even, and it's very, very curious. The doctors can't seem to come up with a reason for that. I have been programmed to be anorexic, to be bulimic. For the government programming, since I was also used by the government in this country, I was programmed to cut my arms if I started to remember, which I was punished for by the Illuminati, as I was not to have these marks upon myself. I was made to eat my own feces as a little child. I was made to drink my own urine. I was not allowed to go to the bathroom. I was placed in a sensory deprivation tank. I had my shoulders, my knees, my toes, and my fingers, my elbows dislocated and then put back into place when they wanted me to be traumatized.
That's crazy as well, that she's talking about sensory deprivation tanks, that we have them now. Like, you can pay and go into a sensory thing where you, like, float in darkness.
I've repeatedly had phone calls of tones coming over my phone, and tones that you can't make by pressing telephone buttons, tones that sound like sonar sounds from a submarine, tones that sound like they were made by some type of instrument. And I have had directed energy used on me, ELF, low frequency electric waves used on me, microwave energy. And this in turn
It just sounds like
has created two different, I would hear one tone in one ear, one tone in different tone in the other ear. It creates a third tone. They're called tritones. They change the electrical activity of your brain waves and to put you in the state they want you in. I have been programmed to run through red light, thinking it's green. There's been a lot of programming done around my children. They've used my children against me. And it's a very painful subject with me to know that this is happening to my children. The same thing that's happened to me. It's easier, I don't know if I can make people understand this. It's easier for me to have, okay, I can handle that I went through this. And what I want most is to expose these people because of what they're doing to children all over. But they're doing it to my children too. And my daughter believes I've abandoned her. My son believes I abandoned him. And they don't have hope when they're children. They don't have hope when their mother's taken away from them and they're told that their mother just left them. So this is a cycle that goes on with thousands and thousands of survivors, not just myself. And this is how they perpetuate it if there is a parent that's protective that believes and has found out this is happening.
The astonishing revelations of Arizona Wilder, a very, very brave lady who's chosen to stand up and be counted. And only by enough people doing that is this nonsense and this manipulation going to be brought to an end, as it is in the next few years. Well, we've come to the end of our little tour of the centre of global control, and we're here now outside the Houses of Parliament in London. the so-called mother of parliaments, because of course it has provided the blueprint for so many other so-called democracies all around the world, when in fact it's just another vehicle for the one-party state that is relentlessly turning out legislation advancing this global centralization agenda. Not a...
He's 100% right there as well, because that's what we're dealing with now. It's like the government has officially admitted that they've just given up the idea of England, and they don't care. They are globalists. They believe that there's no such thing as England. The identity of the country doesn't matter. And yeah. And also, it's kind of going to the Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk has a great quote about America, that America is not a democracy. In America, it's not a true democracy. It's a democratic republic where you have representatives, which is the same as what we have. You have, you don't. He's like, because in a true democratic society, in an up-down vote, you could bring back slavery. You couldn't do that in America. You couldn't do that here. You can't just have an up-down vote, and if it gets, that's not how it works. You vote for the people to go and represent you. The trouble is the people don't represent the people anymore. Like David Icke said, like David Icke was right about this, and we are dealing with the fight right now.
of democracy at all, a place for legislating the agenda into reality. Well, you've heard the information and possibly read it in The Biggest Secret at greater length also. The question is, what are we going to do about it? That's entirely up to you as an individual and me as an individual. As someone once said, what you think of me is none of my business, and it's not. This is just information, make of it what you will. But what we make of it and what we decide to do in the light of this knowledge will decide the kind of world that we and our children are going to live in the next few years and beyond. The Chinese have a word that means at the same time both danger, crisis, and opportunity. And that's the situation we're in now. Yes, there's a crisis. Yes, there's a danger of this global fascist state becoming reality, but it's also an opportunity to wake up and make the change that will turn this planet from a prison into the paradise it once was and the paradise it will become again. And that is about choice. Choosing what we do as a result of what we know. And I quote in my books a number of times an American comedian called Bill Hicks, a genius in his way, very angry man, but a very brilliant man, a very profound man. And he described life in this way. He said, life's like a ride in an amusement park. And when you go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. The ride goes up and down, round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some have been on the ride for a long time, and they remember, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't be afraid ever, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people. Shut him up. I've got a lot invested in this ride. Shut him up. Look at my furrows of worry and my family and my big bank account. This has to be real. It's just a ride. But we always kill those good guys who try to tell us that and let the demons run amok. But it doesn't matter, because it's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. In other words, it's just a reflection of our own attitudes. And to change, as Bill Hicks said, doesn't need big bank accounts. It just means a choice right now between fear and love.
Yeah, that's true as well. That's kind of been proved scientifically, that there's two base human emotions, love and fear. Every human emotion can be derived from them two things. But that speech at the end, you can see why that journalist said to him. But this is the thing, David Icke wasn't trying to get into Parliament. He was just saying what he said to be true. And you can see, like, because what he's talking about, and no one listened to him. And we are fighting that fight right now. But you can see why that journalist said, do you think saying the lizard thing? Because the lizard thing is too far deep, especially at this point. Even now, that is something that's going to switch people off. They don't understand. It's like, I don't know whether the lizard stuff is true, but I know 100% it's possible because science says it's possible. Quantum physics says it's possible. But yeah, you can see why that journalist said to him that you would have a easier time saying the other stuff without putting the lizards in because the lizard stuff switches things off. And David Icke said, yeah, that might be true, but it's the truth. He's like, I've thought about not saying that, but it's the truth. And that's what that journalist said. He's like, I've hung around with. He was a journalist that wrote on all types of cults and all types of, and he's like, and David Icke is one of the rare people that like the kind of supposed oddballs that this guy. He's like, where I, like he's talking his truth. He's not a liar. He's like most of them. You just see that they're liars. They're manipulative. He's like David Icke's not, and you can see why he wasn't really that fussed about mentioning the lizard side of things because he wasn't trying to get into any type of power. He was just saying what he believed is true. Like I say, it's like look how reptilian. I mean, we have our reptilian. The fight or flight is reptilian. Our base is like it's built into us. It is so yeah, yeah. But yeah, we'll move on to the I want to do them twins that run across the road. That is one of the craziest things I've literally seen that clip. Um, but yeah, Mariah sent um yeah one for that. We'll watch that. But then she sent some others, so yeah, I'm gonna do that one next. But I'll have a look. If there's something else that grabs my attention, then maybe we'll go for something else. But I want to do that one. But yeah, that's the reaction. Sweet.